Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya al-mursaleen Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi zidni ilma warzuqni fahma. Welcome back, my dear viewers, to Your Health Show. Before the break, we were discussing remedies. In fact, we are going through today the ABC remedies of homeopathic medicine: aconite, belladonna, and chamomilla. We were going through the various symptoms of aconite, things that you can use it for. And I mentioned then that aconite is a big remedy for, shock to the system. Sometimes the shock is caused by, emotional bad news. Sometimes it's physical bad news. But wherever it may be, if you are in a state of shock, the remedy aconite is your remedy. And also, just out of following the same vein, I mentioned last week the remedy known as rescue remedy. Rescue remedy should be in everyone's car. Rescue remedy is a homeopathically prepared combination remedy. It's an amazing remedy for shock. Amazing remedy for shock. It's a combination of 6 backflower remedies made into one, and you need to get the halal one. Make sure there's no kind of brandy in there, which is absolutely haram. The one you need to get is the one that's made with vegetable glycerine. You can get it. That is an amazing remedy. It's just awesome. If you have any shocks or anything, a tire that's been burst, etc., 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 any other bad news, take a few drops of that remedy, and you will not go into a state of shock. Your senses will not desert you. You will be in a in a good position to deal with whatever shock that you are having. So back to aconite. So as I mentioned, it has these symptoms. It's a very good remedy for shock. Let's quickly go through the through some of these. If you go to slide 4, we'll run through the essence of this remedy. So the essence of the remedy called aconite is that tension. It's like a coiled spring which is ready for action. So either there'll be explosion or there'll be paralysis due to fear. So these are opposite states. One state you've got kind of, you're paralyzed like a rabbit caught in the headlight. On the other, you're absolutely, there's an explosion. You're running around. You're in shock. You don't know what's going on. You're not thinking what you're saying. So there's 2 states, and these can be present in different stages of this. So now the keynotes of this remedy. Let's quickly go through these. Number 1, fear. If you see someone who's fearful, what do you see? You look at their pupils, and their pupils are contracted. They're right small, very, very small. You can see their face, they're pale, they're trembling, they're not in control of themselves. If you see this state, you know that this is the state of aconite, and that remedy will help them no matter what the illness is. So fears, convinced that they will die at a certain hour. You can see the fear in their eyes, their pupils are contracted, and they are worse for fright. The thing that's caused them this issue is fright. Or also cold, dry weather. Cold, dry weather, as I mentioned, that's a physical reason, so not emotional. They've been out in the cold, etc. They've had a warm shower, been out in the cold, etc. They've been exposed to the cold wind. Cold, dry weather will make these people ill. Where that is the case, and the etiology is this, there's an emotional shock or there's a physical shock, aconite is the remedy. 1 dose will be more than enough. And the thing about this remedy is that it's worse at midnight. This 12 o'clock time, as some people call it, time of the witches, if you believe in witches. So at this midnight, these guys kind of are not well. And when you come to belladonna, you'll see in there that, it's a crazy time for the belladonna patients as well. 3 o'clock at midnight, they start hallucinating. But we'll come to that. Worse at midnight, and it's got left-sided symptoms. Let's say you got, your teething is more on the left side. Your left side is, you've got pains of joints, it's more left-sided. Fibromyalgia, more left-sided. Lupus, more left-sided. Wherever it may be, it's a left. Migraines, more left-sided. Wherever it may be, if you've got boils, you've got more of these boils on the left-hand side. So this is a strong left-sided remedy. And it has hot and swollen parts and a full bounding pulse. This full bounding pulse is why it can help with certain cases of hypertension. And also, as I mentioned, when a person has a heart attack, this fear of death and a full bounding pulse, this makes it, it's a good remedy, first aid remedy for while you're waiting for the ambulance to come. So if you continue and look at slide number 5, we'll continue with the aconite homeopathic remedies keynotes. So red face, which becomes very pale when sitting up. slide number 5. So red face becomes very pale when sitting up, and the person is very restless. So imagine someone think they're going to die. What do you think they're going to do? Will they be sitting down and asking for a cup of coffee or anything else to drink? No, they'll be tearing at their clothes, they'll be tearing at their bed, and they'll be running out of that house just to escape death. And that's what happens in certain people who have a heart attack, a cardiac arrest. They're terrified. So a very restless person, and the pains they may have, and this could be any pains: teething pains, fibromyalgia pains, migraine pains, even gallstone, colic, whatever it may be. The pains will be described as tearing and intolerable, and they'll say it's like knives which are tearing into me. The remedy is aconite. So sensation of a tingle, or you may have local symptoms. Local symptoms means in individual organs, like maybe the ear, the throat, or you may even have left-sided trigeminal neuralgia, or even right-sided trigeminal neuralgia, and also Bell's palsy. When you have Bell's palsy, when these nerves are affected because you've been exposed to the cold, this remedy is a very good remedy for this loss of sensation to your tongue and to your eye, etc. Aconite. Now, children who have this, let's say they've been outside and they've got a cold, or even if they've got a cold for any other reason, they may go into a very high fever, and then they may have convulsions. When you hit 38, 39, your children can have febrile convulsions. It's very dangerous. And at that point, they see things. If they have fears of cats, they'll say, oh, there's cats. They're hallucinating. So in that state, childhood fevers with jerking and spasms, their jerks and spasms will be of a single organ. It'll be the leg that's jerking, or it'll be the arm that's jerking. It'll be single organs. Convulsions is a very good remedy for children's convulsions. And also paralysis. Some part has become paralyzed, especially after a fright. It's a major remedy for fright. That's why it's good for panic attacks. That's why it's good for claustrophobia. It's a good remedy for any kind of ailments that come due to fear. You've seen something, PTSD remedy is the main PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder remedy. Aconite. So paralysis, especially after a fright, which affects a single part, aconite is the remedy. Also, like some children who are born and they have retention of urine, they can't pass urine. It's like a paralysis, isn't it? The sphincter of the bladder is paralyzed. Aconite is the remedy. Now, this remedy is really strange. You have in homeopathic medicine, you have something known as SRPs. SRP is a strange, rare, peculiar phenomenon, something weird. You're normally sweating on the areas that you're covered. If I'm covered with big layers, I'm going to be sweating underneath this. But in this remedy, when a child has a fever, they're sweating in areas that are not covered. Let's say the arms are uncovered, they're sweating there. Let's say the face is uncovered, they're sweating there. They're not sweating in other areas. They're sweating in areas which are uncovered. If you see that in a case, then aconite is that remedy. And also with this remedy, they're very, very thirsty for, bitter drinks. They want bitter drinks. And the strange thing with this remedy is also that everything they drink, and it's also a sign of high fever actually, everything they drink will taste very bitter to them. They'll say it's bitter. It's like metallic taste, apart from water. Water will taste normal, but anything else, if your child or your loved one says, look, whatever you give them to drink, they say it's got a bitter taste, and they're very restless, and their face is very pale, and they look very frightened, and their pupils are kind of contracted, then you can give this remedy safely, because they're very, very safe. And also, they have a dry and a hard cough, a croupy cough, the cough of a seal. So if these are the symptoms, then without doubt, the child or the person will benefit from this remedy. Okay. Remedy number 2, belladonna. If you go to slide number 6, please. This remedy, known as belladonna or Atropa belladonna, this is the Latin name, Atropa belladonna. It's got a common name as well. The common name is deadly nightshade. Deadly nightshade or common dwale. If you see these small berries, it's made from there. The botanical family of this is the Solanaceae family. Obviously, the Solanaceae family is different to the aconite. Obviously, that's from the Ranunculae family. So this is the Solanaceae family. Where does it grow? In dry soils throughout Europe. This is where this remedy grows. So if you look at the slide number 7, we'll see a quick synopsis of this remedy and what it's good for. So again, look, childhood fevers, inflammation, ear and throat infection, swollen glands. Do you see the kind of similar vein and thread that's going through both aconite and through belladonna? They're very, very same. That's why they're known as the ABC of homeopathic medicine. They're good for so many illnesses which afflict children. It's a very, very big remedy for acute fevers, very good remedy for teething, for migraine attacks, for high temperatures. Now this remedy, childhood fevers, you know, people use paracetamol with wild abandon. It's so bad for you. If you Google the effects of paracetamol, it has an amazingly bad effect on your liver. Amazing. I mean, I read a survey a while ago that just, and please don't quote me, but one teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of paracetamol increases the risk of your child having asthma by so much. Look into the effects of paracetamol. It'll open your mind and open your eyes to because it's the chemicals. It has a time and a place, no doubt. But why would you use chemicals when you can use so, holistic and side effect free remedies? As I say, if it's good enough for the Queen, it's good enough for, Mr. Abdullah, or it's good enough for, whoever it may be. So, childhood fevers, inflammations, ear and throat infections. If you see tonsils which are bright red and inflamed and swollen, and there's ebullitions of heat, belladonna is amazing, especially for children who are teething. Certain children who have a certain shape, they're quite plump, they are happy to play in their own little room, they don't disturb people, they like to have a lot of milk and eggs. They're known as carb children. For them, when they have very, very bad dentition and very bad teething, they always got diarrhea and it's so hard they're awake at night time, belladonna is the remedy for these children. Within moments they'll be in bed. It's a good remedy for teething. So burning, red, hot and dry. Anywhere there's burning, it's red hot, the person's hot, is dry because of the heat, this is the remedy. It's a good remedy for septicemia. Septicemia, where there's an injury, a wound, and the body is sending all its blood, sending blood to the area with nutrients and oxygen and red cells and white cells to heal. So much blood, the area is congested, there's throbbing because there's so much blood there. Because of the blood being there, there's so much heat there. Because of the heat being there, there's so much redness there. Sometimes there's so much blood there, causes pain to go upwards. And this is one of the things about this remedy, the pain goes upwards. So this is a remedy for these symptoms, and primarily a fever remedy. Throbbing pain, there's so much blood there, congestion, throbbing. Dilated pupils. So this is with aconite, the first remedy, which was for shock, there was fear. That's why the pupils were constricted, they were small. With this remedy, the pupils are dilated. It's a remedy where the person kind of loses his mind. They don't know what they're saying. They're so sensitive to light because their pupils are so dilated. They have very little thirst. In aconite, they're thirsty. In here, in this remedy, there's very little thirst, but they have a weird SRP, strange, rare, peculiar symptom of wanting lemonade. So if your little child has got these symptoms of a cold or a fever or ear infection or tonsillitis or whatever it may be, and they're asking you for lemonade, then, if you have belladonna, give them 1 tablet of belladonna. Alhamdulillah. Let's go to slide number 8. So these are just symptoms of belladonna. If you look at slide number 8. So you got some words here: therapeutics, modalities, concomitants, sensations, and affinities and etiologies. Let's start with therapeutics. Therapeutics means what this remedy is generally good for. So high fevers, for scarlet fever it's almost as specific, and also sometimes for measles as well, but then you have a remedy called pulsatilla which is good for measles. So scarlet fever, and it's got affinity for the three meninges of the head and the brain. Yeah. So if someone, Allah Ta'ala keep everybody safe, they have meningitis, so while the ambulance is coming, give some belladonna. It'll do amazing help. You know, there's so many things you can do for the acute. We had a patient a few days ago with stroke. So when a person has stroke, in the first 1-2 weeks, if they give a certain remedy, then that person, and I mentioned this before in the program, their recovery increases by 50%. Subhanallah. So anyway, belladonna, meningitis, headache, sunstroke, that's therapeutics, that's what it's good for, and many other symptoms as well. Modalities mean what makes it better, what makes it worse. So they're worse for jarring. If you step against or bump against the side of the bed, they really get angry and they'll shout at you, and they're very hot and dry and high temperature, give them a dose of belladonna, wherever the illness may be. Concomitants. Concomitant means that with their main illness, what other symptoms do they have? So they have violent and sudden onset of the illness. Suddenly they were okay, half an hour later they've got a high temperature. Suddenness of onset, that's belladonna, which is known as rabbit cherry, by the way. Dilated pupils. So here the pupils are very, very big. This is why they're very sensitive to light, because the pupils are so big. And delirium. They don't know what they're saying. They're delirious. They're saying things without realizing. They're looking at you, but the brain isn't following them, etc., etc., etc. They may attack you. They may hit you. They may bite you. Hot fever with cold extremities. You may see this. Certain children have very, very hot fever. Their face is hot. Their head is hot. Their chest is hot. But their hands and feet, they're very, very cold. This is a strong indicator of belladonna. And as I mentioned, I mentioned Desir's lemonade. Strawberry tongue. If you ask the child or the patient to open their mouths and look at the end of their tongue, it will be as red as a strawberry. You call this strawberry tongue. Is another kind of confirmatory symptom that this is the remedy. And now sensations. The person who needs the remedy, there'll be redness, obviously. You can see the redness. It's objective. But subjective as well, he'll feel that it's very red. Very, very hot fevers. Radiating heat. It's amazing how this heat is. It's so hot, it radiates heat. Sudden rush of blood to the head or any body part. And that is a symptom of so many illnesses. And throbbing. This throbbing pain, whether it's a migraine, it's a good migraine headache remedy, this belladonna. Affinities. Affinities mean what part of the body does this remedy have a link with, and it can help. So we've got cerebrovascular, the venous supply, the head area. It's a massive head remedy. Everything goes to the head, blood, and mucous membranes. Mucous membranes inside your mouth, inside your body. Mucous membranes. This belladonna has a amazing affinity for mucous membranes. Etiology. Causation. What causes it? You can notice the spellage etiology. Some people spell it with A-E-T-I-O-L-O-G-Y. So etiology, what the causation, why did this state happen? So number one, infection. If you have an infection, that's why it's a big remedy for septicemia. If you have an infection and this state comes after that, belladonna. That's why it's a good ingredient for certain homeopathic preparations which are given in place of antibiotics or homeopathic antibiotics. Exposure to the sun. Yeah. You've been out in the sun for such a long time. You've had sunstroke. Belladonna indicated. Cerebral irritations. Illnesses of the head, mind, like things like meningitis, etc. And it says acute ailments of calcarb stay. As I mentioned to you, calcarb stay, calcaria carbonica. This is calcarb stay is the abbreviation for the stay of calcaria carbonica. It's a remedy. Certain children are what's known as calcaria carbonica children. They're quite plump, a bit overweight, they sweat a lot. When they go sleep at night time, their head always kind of sweats so much, perspires so much that in the morning the pillow is wet. They're like eggs. They're quite clumsy, very content children at the beginning anyway. They like to sit down and do their stuff. As they get older, they're not very content. They're very, very discontent actually. But the child who is a calcarb child, belladonna works like magic for that child. Works like magic. If you have a calcarb child and he's teething or has a fever or anything else, this is the remedy. Okay, so now let's go through some of the Let's go through the quick. Let's look at the belladonna picture. Belladonna, if you go to slide 10, belladonna, the essence of belladonna is conflagration. Conflagration means that there's fire on the person, inside his body is so hot. Great consuming fire like heat rising upwards to the head. So many symptoms of this remedy move upwards to the head. So wherever a person is very, very hot, this is the remedy. Almost all conditions requiring this medicine involve inflammation, which produce things like burning heat, bright redness, throbbing, shooting, pulsating pain, swelling. Even in the mind and emotions, what do we see? This rage and hot-headedness. They're angry for a reason. Keynotes and characteristics: sudden violent conditions, bright redness, radiating heat, dryness, throbbing, shooting pains, worse for heat of the sun and the right side. This remedy that is a right-sided remedy. We mentioned with the aconite, it's a left-sided remedy. This is a right-sided remedy. So any illnesses it has will be more predominantly on the right-hand side. Pain move upwards to the head, wherever it may be. And you can see the carotid arteries throbbing. As the blood is going to the head, these carotid arteries, you can see the blood going through them and you can see them, pulsating. And the pupils are dilated. They have aversion to strong light because of this dilation of the pupil, and they're sensitive to jarring and noise. Wherever this illness, if the symptoms are similar, you can give belladonna. But with this remedy, there's no perspiration, there's no sweating. When you give the remedy, then the sweating starts and the temperature comes down. And that's a sign that it's working. They can have convulsions. Of course, if you have febrile convulsions, the fever goes so high, 39, then the child starts convulsing. It's very dangerous. You call the ambulance straight away and you use a towel to kind of make the child cold, a cold, wet kind of a cloth. And they have if the temperature goes very high, they have a wild look, they have outbursts of laughter, and they bite you as well. And they have a fear of dogs and fear of water. They don't like the head becoming wet. If your child or your ill one is like this, then belladonna is the remedy. Unfortunately, we've got no more time than that. It's a very good remedy for septic fevers with redness and heat, for rheumatoid attacks, for mastitis, a very big remedy for mastitis where you can see the lymph nodes becoming inflamed and you can see red streaks going up. We have run out of time, inshallah. We will continue this in the next week. Jazakallah for taking part in today's program. Until next week, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.